Good morning, everybody. By which I mean, oh, there are some people here. Hello. Good morning. Lots to talk about. Lots to talk about. And there's a question already on the table, which relates to what I wanted to start with. Of the different types, so Fun Monster asks of the different types of videos you are producing, what kind is doing best and why? Interesting question. Um, uh, I've gotten something like 2 million views in the last month, those are impressive numbers for me. I don't normally get that much. They're all on the shorts. In fact, my long videos are getting almost no views. Maybe 70 to 400, 250, maybe something like that. And the ones that are doing well, I've got 4 series going now. So there's Magnificent Mike, who seems to remain a hit, though I think that the interest in him will probably flag. I've got Word to Try on Trumpies, which has been doing well so far. I haven't got all the details on it. Then I've got the ones that are probably doing the best are the AI DT tells it like it is. These are the ones in which I'm basically giving words to an AI version of Trump, and those get a lot of attention. And then I realized, since my videos are doing not so well, the long form, that I should just be doing my essays in 3-minute versions. And so I've started doing those. I put out one of each every day. And I'm having fun with it, and I'm not trying to keep up. No, listen, what I'm trying, I recognize that the interest in these will probably flag. By the way, this is not mostly on YouTube. This is on a bunch of Facebook channels that I'm getting close to 2 million. But it relates to some questions that are on my mind or some things that are interesting. Hello, Jeff Cheney, trying indeed. Yes, so a couple of things. I have this session, which I'm still hoping might turn into, it might become the Sunday session. So Jeff and Fun Monster, you're both part of that session. And we're a small number of people who get together, but it's live and it's engaging and we have a focus. So I wonder if it continues to be small, maybe what I'll end up doing, and I would welcome your opinions about this, is turning that into where we can cover all sorts of topics, and anybody from the Saturday session could come in. Hello, Michael. You and I, we got to talk. So it's a possibility that we would go that route, and that would actually be something we video. So that would be, maybe Sunday would become like this, but with you guys talking, not just texting. Yeah, you're in trouble, Michael de Sasa Cruz, but not in nearly the trouble that Jeff Cheney is, because Jeff Cheney missed one of our sessions last week without an excuse slip from the principal's office. So you're in the doghouse, Michael, definitely, but not like Jeff and not like me. I'm in the doghouse because I'm getting a whole lot of hate mail these days, which I'm loving, because it's a more of an opportunity to experiment and learn how to connect, how to make it all work. But I've made this a session where I invite your notions of the week. I'm coming up with lots of notions. It's fun. And I'm happen to be one of those guys who likes fun. And I'm having fun generating ideas. In fact, my anxiety about my confidence only goes down when I'm not having ideas. Hello, Abel Makes Music. But I also realized something about what happens with those ideas we generate. In part because I've been inviting it, for example, among clients and just anybody I talk to. I want to play with their ideas. I got lots of ideas, but I want to play with them. We want to play together in the sandbox of our shared ideas, and I don't want to be the only source of the ideas, because one of the big ideas I'm trying to promote is this idea about having ideas. Now, I have something to say about that, which is there is a tendency when you start out to do it kind of mosaic style. Way I've thought of this before is that it's like a child who goes around collecting cute hamsters and just kind of putting them in his shirt here or her shirt. These ideas that that are, they feel good, they sound good, they really zing you when you first heard them, perhaps in a meme or something like that. And you start collecting them up, and you end up with a disconnected mosaic. It's a bunch of different gems here and there. Um, there you do. Okay, let's see. Does its own drifting on its own. I would prefer a second live session. Okay, that sounds good. But Jeff, can you handle the the challenge of having more on your schedule? Because these are strictly optional. I just want to make that perfectly clear. We don't take roll. But anyway, what I want to say is you start collecting up these ideas and you make a thing of your opinions. It's just like it's like a mobile or or a collage, or a mosaic. You know, you got these different ideas. And at some point, you start to recognize, oh, this idea actually doesn't play that well with that idea. It's like those hamsters that you collect up because they're all cute. You know, you like all these different hamsters, but some of them don't play well with each other at all. And you got to figure it out and you start sorting them out. What I am doing by now, having done this, having had the luxury, I'm not talking smarts, I'm just talking luxury of getting to do this for so long, is that you start to find the connections, the compatibilities, incompatibilities, and you start to do something, or at least I invite you to do something closer to worldview making. That is, you're trying to come up with a whole model for how it all works together. It's not just like, I have this opinion, and I have this opinion, you should do this, and you should do that. It's a different approach. And that's where I think the fun really starts. Because the mixing and matching and incompatibilities you discover, and all the thinking in stereo you have to do, where you're working with paired opposite ideas and trying to figure out when which applies, all of that stuff, that's what I'm addicted to. So while Michael DeSouza Cruz is addicted to me, he's also and I thank you for that. I'm addicted to this worldview making. And so where I want to challenge you, actually, I have very interesting thing with a devoted Catholic today, and I thought of you the whole time. Standing my ground in the paradox, wallowing in the doubt was exhilarating. Thank you, my brother. That's all. We just want to do that. It's fun, and boy, is it easy to stay grounded if you're not brittle because you have some idea you have to protect. It's just easier. I spent probably 4 hours the other night with my Trump supporting Zionist Israeli friend and his wife. I had dinner over at their house. We got stoned. We smoked cigars. And we had the most rich and delightful debate. And he's really softening into it. And we can tease each other. It's delightful. And I think, I mean, just never believe anything I declare about myself. Take it with a grain of salt. If I'm wrong about me, I'd be the last to know that, all that sort of stuff. But I do find this last week, especially, that there are people who at first are a little wary of me because I seem to be a little contrary to them. But at some point, they realize that they can talk with me about something that's really been on their mind, but they haven't been able to kind of talk about it or explore it. It's a little too touchy. And they find out that if they have a jam session with me, we're just a casual jam session over dinner or whatever, there's a kind of lighting up they do. Like, shit, I can talk to this guy without there being a bunch of eggshells and landmines. We're just two schmucks exploring what's going on. It's not the competition, it's not the threat to their status, because there's a kind of shamelessness in grounding yourself in the paradox. Now, Michael DeSouza Cruz, it's just time for me to pose this. You said this in a comment yesterday or today, something like, you said capitalism is a myth. And then you said something that wasn't a warrant or a reason why. It was something like, I forget what it was, but it could have been something along the lines of, a lot of people won't face this. Now, I don't care what the content is. I mean, you and I could talk about whether capitalism is a myth, but there is a thing that I find unreasonable, literally unreasonable. It's where someone declares a conclusion and doesn't give any um, any explanation for it. And it's actually a status thing at some point. It's a way of pulling rank, is to simply declare your opinion. Um, Capitalism is a myth, and just to put it out there and assume that people should listen to you. So I get a lot of that from Trumpists. I mean, it's the standard move. And I did write it up this morning on Facebook. Let me just grab it here. Let's see. It's a picture. Okay. Trolling is shopping therapy without the credit card debt. You feel like royalty, dismissing as inferior all offerings that don't meet your impeccable standards. And if you find reality inadequate, you demand to talk to the manager. So, what I'm talking about, there is a standard human appetite to pontificate, to play Pope. Um, uh, yeah, so now in the comments section, in a way, that's fine. Anybody can just say that's stupid or I don't believe that. And that's some of the satisfaction that people are getting. It's this feeling like you're a buyer in a buyer's market and everybody is supplicating and offering you ideas and you just say that's stupid, dismiss it. It's yeah, that conversation this week with a guy who's dealing with this challenge at a very high level in drug discovery, pharmaceutical drug discovery. He's finding that there are people who don't want to solve problems so much as they want to be the gatekeeper. They don't want to find solutions so much as they want to be the gatekeeper who who decides what's good and what's bad. It's simply cheaper and more fun. It relates to something else I posted on Facebook today, which I'm going to read you. It's short. Um, it's uh, it's the influencer's story. How did I? Here, let's see if I can find it here. The influencer story. It relates to this. Okay, my wife dumped me. I stalked her for about a year, and then I realized I couldn't get her back. I got this big breakthrough idea. You can't change other people. You can only change yourself. It felt like a big revelation, one that I could sell to other people. So I sell it. It takes my mind off my ex, and it gives me a meaning in life to tell people that they need to change, to realize that they can only change themselves. See, changing myself is too hard. It's easier to tell other people they should change, which is what I'm doing out there. Preaching that you can only change yourself. Whether it works or not doesn't matter as long as I'm getting views. You see where I'm going with there? So I'm simply saying that opinion is easier by a lot than reasoning, than the word, than world building, trying to create coherent world building. And I know, Michael, that you are trying to create coherent world building. And the thing I'm posing, and I don't know you. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard your voice, or maybe once. And I've only seen photographs of you. So don't take my fucking word on it. But there's a way in which you could be really liking how I am talking about the myth addicts and not noticing um, that you could be one too. And I'll give you an example. This is the other thing I want to bring up today. So I've discovered over the years that there are three kind of people who get interested in me. One kind is really drawn to my butt. No, they're drawn to some kind of vague charisma they see off of me. Whether it's there or not is not the question. They think that there's something cool about me, but they don't have a idea what it is. Second category is familiar to me. I deal with this a lot. I had a really good buddy who who loved my work on psychoproctology because he thought it confirmed his assumptions about who was an asshole and who wasn't. And then he did something that I found to be truly assholean. Um, Borrowed money and didn't respect the loan. Borrowed substantial money, not just from me, from other people. And I got to see how he was in action. So he was a complete asshole about that from my perspective. I'm not the objective judge of who's an asshole. I made a guess that he was. but his righteous indignation was over the top. He was using confirmation bias as a solution to all his problems. And this has been a disappointment throughout my life, is that I think that someone's interested in actually exploring with me, when mostly what they seem to be doing is finding affirmation for their biases in my work. Um, Only this morning did I draw a parallel between this and the three versions I see of what goes on in religion or in any ideology. And it's a loose connection because I made it 15 minutes before this meeting. But there are true believers. There are people who really want to follow a religious approach. There are um, honest and dishonest relievers. An honest reliever is someone who recognizes that it's a myth that they're dealing with, and that they're enjoying a myth, and they need the myth. Everybody needs myths, as far as I'm concerned. I have all sorts of myths about myself, um, but they also recognize that it's not true. So an honest reliever is someone who says, "I believe in scientific progress. I believe in church, or I believe in masturbation, or I believe in video games, whatever. Okay, I believe in spectator sports." Um, so that's what I'm after, is people who will do that with me. That is, no, we haven't solved the universe, you and I, and nor has MMT. I'm sorry, it hasn't. Um, but it is fun to get off on it and feel like we've got it solved. And then there are the people who are the dishonest relievers. These are the people who will say, because I declare myself to be a Christian, I am entitled to all sorts of authority. Um, that is, I'm aligned with the doctrine in principle, even though I don't know anything about it, and it makes me superior. So I won't bother to go into the detail of how that relates, but here is the one thing I'm saying, is that someone could be totally jazzed by what I'm saying here and be stepping in it themselves, doing exactly the stuff that I'm diagnosing here, and not notice it, not notice that they are. In fact, I could become a substitute for noticing it. That's the whole theme I work over and over, which is exempt by contempt. Since I can see this shit in other people and I don't see it in myself, that I see it in other people proves I'm an expert on seeing it. And I don't see it in myself, which means I don't have it. And the more I despise it in other people, look at these Trumpists, with their myths and their cult and all of that, the more it proves I am exempt from doing that. And that is deadly. I'm working against that. So any one of you, including me, could be saying this stuff to protect against having to look at myself. I could be doing all this introspection. So I've had a great conversation this morning with my godson, bro. He's just finished highfalutin degrees in philosophy, and he wanted to. He raised a question that's really interesting to me, which is it's a central theme for me. How do you up level to explore, let's say, someone's motives without it pulling rank? It's a really interesting question to me. How do you do that? And I've got all sorts of ideas about it. So let's see. Uh, I like you. I like you because you're good at pointing out contradictions that I didn't think of, and from that I get a better at doing that myself. I'm not sure where that fits. It fits. That's all I'm fucking doing. Is that I mean, really, all there is to this is if you hear yourself or someone else talking out both sides of your mouth, you get interested in it. It's what I call intellectual bi-curiosity. Most people dismiss it. They don't want to see inconsistencies. They want to think that the pet hamsters, the cute hamsters they've collected, are all playing together well. They're perfectly fine with a dazzling mosaic of beliefs that contradict each other. A collage is perfectly good. It's like your hope. What do they call those hope? Your hope poster. You can have opposite things on it, the way that Trump does on his new coin, which is his little hope chest. He's got e pluribus unum, we're all one, and then he's got fight, fight, fight. Now, you can kind of make those sort of work together, which is we're united in our fight against everybody who's against us. Yeah, that's sort of what he means. but he doesn't notice the difference. He doesn't notice that there is actually a discrepancy in there. If you notice that, if you become intellectually bi-curious, that's where the joy is. That's where my fun comes from. And I don't think I came to it by moral grounds. I came to it because it fucking pays off. I get much better. I get much more immune to people accusing me of things. It doesn't bother me when someone says I have a quality that they want to say is always bad, and I'm saying is half good, half bad. You're unkind. Of course, what do you think? I can be kind to everyone? Do you think you're being kind to me? You're shaming. You think I don't have a problem admitting that I shame. I'm trying to figure out um, uh, where to shame and where not to shame. My favorite version of this is you're a name caller. Don't be a name caller. That's name calling. So if the better you get at noticing those paradoxes, the better you are. Am I vegan yet? Um, I don't know what you're doing there, Tommy Dupree. I have been vegan at times in my life. I lived for 7 years on the world's largest hippie commune. Um, and we didn't even wear leather. We didn't even have leather drum heads on congas. We were serious about it. Since then, I'm mostly vegan. I had tempeh last night. But I'm not principled about it. I'm not proud of it or anything like that. The way I think of it, it's not about killing animals for me. In fact, I find PETA laughable. It's part of what I call romantic humanism, this idea that we can just lift ourselves off of our animal nature um, by realizing that it's cruel to hurt animals and that nature wouldn't do that. I mean, it's romanticizing. It's a Walt Disney version of nature. Fucking, we've been eating each other for the longest time. There's almost no creatures except a few abiotic creatures that aren't predators or parasites. We rely on each other. It's called the extended phenotype thing. So that's not why I was ever vegan. It was a little health, but it was mostly climate change. Now, Tommy Dupree, you vegan yet might be, tell me if this is wrong, but I have to make these guesses, and this is a really good example of it. Tommy Dupree might be asking something about my diet, or he might be doing this fun trolling thing, which is he's got a stereotype of everybody who thinks different from him. And he's got this idea that we're all Berkeley wimp wusses who are vegan and hypersensitive, and that might be how he gets off. Because I mean, Tommy could be a troll. I don't know. You could be a real decent guy. I'm raising this question, and you get to help me out. You should know it's not just about the diet, though. Okay, so now I'm hearing. So here's the thing I have to do, because I'm hearing from thousands of people sometimes, um, and I have to read them and what they're doing. And there are two moves that are possible. One is that I could trust someone who's not trustworthy, that they're not really looking to have a conversation. They're just trying to stick it to you. That is, I could trust a troll, or I could mistake someone as a troll when they're not. Okay, so what the fuck is Tommy Dupree doing here? He's out of the blue. He raises this question: "You vegan yet?" This is clearly starts to sound like it's a litmus test of whether or not I'm a lame-o he doesn't have to pay attention to. And then he says, "You should know it's not just about the diet, though." Okay, you should know is definitely a high horse move. So I'm beginning to get the sense that this guy's jerking off to his with self-flattery, that he comes on here and it'd be the equivalent of me saying, if I let's say that Tommy Dupree was Tommy, that you can't be vegan is separate. That's not what we're talking about here. Tommy Dupree, do you like hunting? I knew it. I knew it. You fit my stereotype. You probably, it's not, I'm here because I speak out for the animals, just trying to spread awareness in a positive way. Okay, so look, I misread him. Now, did I? Let's see. So Tommy Dupree comes on here. He says, "I'm here because I speak out for the animals, just trying to spread awareness in a positive way." I am very confused. But not necessarily. So there's something. He's a vegan that rides a horse. Yes. Um, if you're getting at the high horse thing, I think that's in here. So, Tommy Dupree, did you come in here with no interest in any of the ideas that we're talking about in here, but just to spread awareness in a positive way because you speak on behalf of the animals? Is that what you're doing? Because that's kind of a miss. It's. I mean, run your own YouTube live. It's not if you want to talk about where. First of all, speaking for the animals, speaking out for the animals. Um, no, you don't. I mean, you might speak out for some animals, but you're not the Lorax exactly, and you're just trying to spread awareness in a positive way. Here's a word that really fascinates me. I use it way too much, but it does certainly fascinates me, and I get a little red flag every day. Just. What does just mean? I'm just doing this. It means ignore all other possible explanations. Okay. So if I say, hey, man, I'm just trying to be positive, or I'm just trying to be nice, or it's basically a frame dominance move, which is to say, we are dismissing all other possibilities. You need to trust me. I am the authority on what I'm doing, and I have checked with myself 3 times, and every time I have found what I'm doing to be positive. So that's in the realm of self-reported flattery. And for me, I'm just describing my moves. I could be completely wrong about this. It's my guesses because I'm trying to understand who I'm talking with here. That virtue signal backfires badly with me. Doesn't matter whether you're protecting the animals or MAGA or whatever or any liberal. I don't care. That's not interesting. What is this person who says, look, I know you don't believe me, but believe me, you should believe me. I have checked with myself. I can verify that I'm honorable, honest, and positive. Red flag from anybody. It's got nothing to do with you, Tommy, but okay. I'm just curious what's stopping you from being fully vegan. Now, watch what's going on here. This is just fabulous. I love it. Thank you for being here, Tommy. And no, I'm not going to answer your fucking question. What do you think? You could just railroad this thing to turn it to your agenda? Um, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. So if you feel like sending me some stuff about it, that's fine. In the meantime, not interesting to me. What I was interesting was this whole exchange because you get to see the challenges of dealing with strangers. I do not want to treat I won't call them trolls. I'll call a proselytizer. It could be anybody. It could be Michael DeSosa spreading MMT. If I don't want to actually give them undue attention. I don't want to be a prop in their circle jerk vanity project, in their vanity project. I opt out of that. At the same time, I don't want to. I want to connect with someone who's actually thinking about it. So when now, Tommy Dupree says these are useful techniques, Tommy, if you're going to be promoting vegetarianism, you really need to understand. I think this is just my opinion. What happens when you say, "I'm just curious"? What's stopping you? I'm just curious. A major distrust of that. Think of how, just drop out of the content. It's not about content. It's not about whether you live with a vegan for 6.5 years. Do not get lost in that. We're talking about watching how frames play and who's framing it up and how you pull rank. If I say, I'm just curious, look, my general assumption is that I know it's just my opinion when I describe my own behavior or anything like that. You recognize that it's just my opinion. The key is, do I recognize? Can I show you that I recognize that it's my opinion? And when someone states as if they're being objective, anything about their own clarity, virtue, pure positivity, I'm just curious, I'm just trying to, Tommy, this got nothing to do with you. It's about human moves. That doesn't work for me. It's a total turnoff. It's a red flag. It means I'm dealing with someone who is saying what they need to hear and they don't give a fuck what else is going on. They're not interested in the conversation. He's not. He's talking. He's talking. Okay, so hidden doll. Yes, that's what we're talking about. Yes, we can have our opinions all day, but we take living beings right away. He cannot quit. Okay, Tommy, rave on, rave on. This is a different conversation. So I mean, go ahead, but you've done enough damage to your credibility with me that you're actually interested in the conversation that I bow out. That's the point. Okay. All right. Let's move on from Tommy. We weren't talking about Tommy. We were talking about other things. Anybody else have any ideas this week? I want to say any truth must survive its own contradiction. I like that. I like that lots. So let's see. Anybody got any ideas? I've got others. I've got some main ones from this week, some big ones. While I wait for yours, I want to hear your ideas. And remember this idea about, let's see, I'm just going to do something here. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. So here are two big ideas I had this week, really important to me. This week, I don't know if they'll stay important to me. Remember how driven I am by this question. What is the universal driver for humans? There may not be one. No, I actually sent him away. I've sent him on a 5-minute timeout. And I didn't need to. And he could say, oh, I was blocked because they're closed-minded, whatever the fuck. But what I'm saying is, I didn't want the distraction in the meeting anymore. But it was classic. It was beautiful for how well it demonstrated a concern when someone is tenacious about their agenda and they do it out of passion and confidence in themselves. That's the connection I want to make. We love confidence. I've called it affirmation. I've called it reassurance. If you really get down to it, it's confidence. And the economy for confidence is intense. And what I noticed this week is that that's all that Trump sells, and it's all he needs to sell. And it's all the more impressive. His absolute confidence is all the more impressive when he's fucking up. Think about it this way. We're all concerned about being fuck ups and having to take the blame or consequences for screwing something up. And some of us are really fucking up. One way to think about this is as a just kind of a general social problem is that a person can be so bad. If you're in school and you fuck up, teachers slow down for you. If you're in reality and you fuck up, the lessons come harder and harder to where you have accumulated so many fuck ups that you are dealing with problems that a genius cannot solve. So there are people out there, especially in education deprived cultures and all of that, where they can't catch a break. And it's not even their fault. It's that the world has just gotten way too complicated for them and they can't deal with it. And then along comes someone who shows that you could be confident anyway, that you could say, no, that was a win. I win. I win. That proves I'm right. That proves I'm smart. And it's like as dazzling as Evel Knievel. The way I framed it this week is that Donald Trump is like Evel Knievel, who is jumping. His status remains afloat as he jumps over sinkholes of his own making. And that's actually kind of the fun of it. That is the fun of it. And why they have so much joy when he screws up and we get upset and they get to sport what they're trying to learn from Trump, which is this infinite absolute confidence. So that's one thing that came to me this week. And we're still looking for ideas. Let me pick up on one here. Any truth must survive its own contradiction. I would probably frame it a little different. And this is what you do with these ideas. You take them and you make sure that the words nail it. Any truth must coexist with its contradiction is probably closer to what I would say. Any truth must survive its own contradiction works to some extent. But the standard move is to say, here's the truth. Well, here's the opposite truth. Okay, well, I have to choose one or the other. What I'm saying is no, what you do is you come up with wisdom to notice the differences that make a difference about when you apply the different truths. That's how I think about it anyway. Is that when I see myself talking out both sides of my mouth, I don't deny it, and I don't usually try to kill one of the ideas so that I can feign completeness, feign consistency. No, I'm actually trying to figure out, okay, if I should be serene sometimes and I should be courageous other times, then the question isn't, it's not enough for me to say there's a time to be serene, time to be courageous. I got to get into the question, okay, when to be which? And Tommy was a great example of this. You saw me on the edge and not freaking out about being on the edge. After all, I'm out on a limb here. I'm doing this presentation. This guy's writing in and he's badgering and frame dominance and all of that. No, I was trying to give you a sense of what it's like live. Because you're trying to figure out, should I have the courage to tell this guy to shut the fuck up? Or should I have the serenity to accept and be receptive with him? And I do not want my own skin in that game. Okay, I'm trying to get you to understand the system while others are trying to get you angry at the system. Notice what's going on there again. Actually, I'm going to pose this to you. So it's an interesting quote. All right. What do you mean by interesting? I think you might mean it's kind of satisfying. It's kind of fun. Like you can imagine saying it. Like it's one of those cute hamsters you would collect up. Now, here's a challenge for you, Michael. A homework assignment in class. Tell me what's interesting about it and tell me what's positive and negative about it. What you like about, where does it work, where does it fail? That framing, that phrasing is what I'm asking you to think about. Okay? For example, is there any limit on who could say it? And have some credibility gained from it? Does it actually qualify people? How does it qualify people? Well, it kind of qualifies it the way that Tommy was just trying to qualify his was saying. I'm just trying to get you to understand the system. My aims are true. My aims are pure. And these other people who are upset, their aims are false or cheap, or they're just trying to manipulate you. It's an ethos move. It's a move towards credibility. Once again, I'm not interested in the content. I'm interested in the rhetoric here. In a way, I can also resonate with the content. That is, I'm trying to get people to be post-angst, post-outrage, to get really curious about what's up with these Trumpists. So I could say, I'm trying to get them to understand the human system. So I could resonate with this and say, yeah, that's the kind of thing I should say. And not only that, I like the rhetoric of it. I'm trying to understand versus angry at the system. There's a little bit of it's not a chiasma, but it's got that rhythm thing that you like in rhetoric. But I'm raising a question about it, and I want to see if you can get at it. And it's exactly the issue that came up around Tommy saying, I'm just right there. You're right there. It is something that one could use to dominate the conversation because frames, while understanding is good. Yeah. Yeah. And notice how that becomes an invitation. That's what I'm getting at there. An invitation to hypocrisy. So imagine this. I say, I hate when people lie to me. I really it bugs the shit out of me. No one should ever lie. I'm a crusader against lying. And then, like all humans, you end up lying. Well, what are you going to do with that? You've already put your money down on lying is bad, and now you're doing it. So what are you going to do? You're going to deny that you do it. So other people trying to get you angry at the system totally sounds like they're saying that other people are cult leaders who want to get you this way. It's fine as a seductive move. I just don't want to be seduced by it. I mean, I study all the rhetoric, but rhetoric and critical thinking are basically two sides of the same coin. How do you spin things to good effect, and how do you unspin things? And I got to do both. But there's a tendency to think that to use them like Socrates raises this, which is the problem with logic, is that everybody will use it to defend themselves and attack others. Okay. Yes, it seemed to be another high horse move when I heard it. Thank you, Michael. That's what I was checking for, because you said interesting quote I heard this week. I could not tell. Remember, these are this kind of interaction is fabulous because we don't know each other that well. So I'm hearing that and I'm saying, oh, okay, is this Michael getting on his high horse? He finds a new phrase that makes it easy for him to get on his high horse. Could be a part of that. I mean, it's hard to say. Interesting is one of these ambiguous words, but you also could be coming at it the other way, which is uh, that actually you found it a red flag, and that would be my issue with it. Only the paranoid survive. I, I like cultivating suspicion, and I like cultivating it in a way that doesn't make me any less suspicious of my own moves, because suspicion of other people's moves often is a substitute for suspicion of your own. Watch out, Sherman. I'm riding on my high horse, the highest horse I've got in my stables. All right, now I'm ready for it. Here he comes. But the problem is high horses are demoted in my world. They're demoted. High horses are demoted to an elevated level at which I hold all egotism. I mean, I did start to write a 5-part piece, a series on vanity, which started with the whole usual thing about, what drives social media, vanity, what drives movies, vanity, and then says, now I know where you think I'm going next, which is we all got to transcend our vanity. No, we need our fucking vanity. We need it so badly, especially these days. We are human and we are in trouble, and our confidence is being depleted all the time by various different things. We need our vanity. So this is basically about vanity management, because we need it, and it's going to be in shorter supply. I mean, the general idea that drives a lot of my work is that the world we've used about used up the Earth's carrying capacity for self-flattering bullshit at a time when the demand for it is going to skyrocket. Everybody's racing to find a high horse at a time when the sustainability of our entire world depends on us getting off our high horses. Really interesting challenges. And I just got to say, I'm delighted to be dealing with them. I just think they're the most interesting things around. I feel really lucky to find questions that at least are, to me, interesting. And vegetarianism is less interesting to me, frankly. I mean, at this point, I don't think there was a time when I thought if everybody could become vegan, um, we could save the world. I have less hope of that right now, by a lot. Okay, he's curious again. Okay, Tommy's back. Hello, Tommy. Nice to see you again. So I'm curious how you see inner transformation, the way our thoughts and emotions shape our experience of reality. That's a broad question, and in a way, that's what we've been dealing with all throughout here. I do not believe in transformation. I believe in management. This is a radical difference, and really worth checking out. So I was just talking about this. I don't know if you were back yet, Tommy, but it's the idea that I can transcend my ego. That vanity is a bad thing because it has lots of bad effects. But it's a bad thing that we could simply lobotomize out of ourselves, and we would do it through this concept of transformation or transcendence, and we would claim that there are paths to it, like being born again in Christianity, or taking LSD, or ayahuasca, or ketamine, or becoming vegan, or something that would somehow bring us the purge that we so want, so that we can feel confident forevermore. And we would have escaped the hungry ghosts that are vanity. Don't believe it's possible. I don't even believe it's necessary, I should say. No, you got to manage your vanity, and you got to know how it looks to others. One way to think about it is that there's a kind of vanity that you can get into where you're basically masturbating in public, but your eyes are closed and you don't notice how it looks to others. So any of those kind of grandstanding moves, like the one that Michael was just describing, or some of the ones that I was commenting on from Tommy, those are evidence those are evidence to me that you're jerking off on a high horse and you assume that the world doesn't see you. And at that point, it's to your advantage to keep your eyes closed. And that's where you lose people. That's where you end up. If you go on a date with some woman and you're like that, or if you're a woman, but either way, I mean, I think you hear more about the women who go out on a guy who's basically go out to dinner, and basically throughout the dinner, his eyes are closed and he's jerking off. He's offering her ways to feel impressed by him, and no, that actually doesn't work. And the guy can walk away and say, yeah, she was a closed-minded bitch because she wasn't interested in me. She must have been a narcissist because she didn't want to have that conversation. She didn't want to kind of continue the conversation with dazzling me. But that's where it gets to be a problem. And I'm not just talking about sexually. It's in any conversation. If I come on, it's like the hard sell. It's just not. Most folks don't like hard sells. Most people polarize to them by now. So if you got to figure out how to lure them in like you're a magnet, electromagnet. You got to be gentle enough to coax them in, to seduce them into conversation. And if you suddenly jerk on them with a hard sell, it has the opposite effect. It polarizes you. That's what I mean by a red flag. Is if someone comes on to me like, believe me, you should believe me, I am saying something that is nothing but positive. When you make those moves, you flip the magnet. And now the more you tug on me, the more repulsed I am. That's how I think about it. Okay. Yes. Well, I hope you're slightly ironic when you say, even when it comes to, say, a topic like MMT. My guess, my brother, is that MMT is where you're most likely to get on your high horse. And I know all the caveats you could give about it, like it's just about national income and all that sort of stuff. I'm saying you can get off. Look, Tommy gets off on vegan as the litmus test for virtue. Someone could do that about MMT. I could do that about my shit. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be world-shattering news. It could be whatever is your identity, that your load-bearing identity belongs to it. With some people, it becomes full tilt, like with MAGA people. It's like their only identity. Okay, so anyway, let's see. We need to put as much focus on our mental health as we do on our physical health. Okay. Hi, Azrael. Nice to see you. Jeff, redefinition of mental health diagnosis needed. Human emotions are not mental illnesses. Shirley, thank you. I like that thought. There's definitely a spectrum. Is more than emotions. Are we having a Humeist moment, Jeremy? Yes. Yes, we are. So I'm going to come back to Jeff Cheney, but yes, we're having a Humeist moment. Is the problem that Jeremy is closed-minded to MMT? Is the problem that Michael is closed-minded to non-MMT, that kind of Tommy move? Or is it that we just disagree about that stuff? That's what we're talking about. Okay. I'm going to come back to this thing about spectrums and emotions. The Humeist movie. I've seen the Humeist movie. I don't know what that means, but anyway, yeah, there's most movies are about that. It's a problem, this, that, or that. So is it that we're incompatible, or are you the problem, or I'm the problem? And there is a move that says, well, obviously we're both a problem, because whenever there's a problem, there's both are a problem. I don't necessarily buy that. I don't think that the slave is equally the problem in a relationship with their master. I gotta look at how far you generalize from these things. Good. The Humeist problem, and also keep in mind that with the Humeist problem, there's also the 5-minute rule, which is if you're testy like I am, you get to snap for 5 minutes, but after that, you have to get to the Humeist question. Okay. Now, this thing about mental illnesses is up for me because of some academics I'm interacting with about it, but also clients and other circumstances where I'm seeing people tangled up in these diagnostic terms. And one friend of mine she's a psychologist for students at Harvard, pointed out, I haven't verified it yet, that the yes, you should excuse yourself. Oh no, Michael, no, it's not like that. No, we're just having fun. We're fucking around. It's not like that. That's the other thing, is we don't get the other thing about the 5-minute rule is you don't have to resolve it in 5 minutes. That would be a deadly thing to try to figure out. Like, whose fault is it? No, go to the bathroom. Come on back. whenever you want. But anyway, um, this friend of mine said that the diagnostic terms, the clinical terms, were originally motivated by the need to have insurance company categories. This is a major issue in, for insurance and all of that. So is narcissism, is psychopathy. Now, I have an interesting relationship with all of that because I am not a clinical psychologist. I cannot speak with any authority about the diagnostic terms. And yet I don't find them that credible. When I'm talking to clients who have who suspect a diagnostic term about whoever they're finding challenging in their lives, I try to shift the conversation away from that to the human being themselves and understand the human being. So an example would be if a client said, yeah, this person is really acting out. It's highly antisocial. We think they might be a narcissist or a psychopath or something like that. And I'll say, okay, but do they have, are they that way with everybody, or are they that way with just a few people? And usually the answer is just with a few people, just with me and a few others. I say, okay, well then I'm not interested in the sense that they possess the equivalent of a witch's spell. I don't say it this way, but it's how I feel about it. I'm interested in the human being, what they're capable of, what their trade-offs are, why they would act that way with you and not with other people, and what we could do to change that. It's much more at the human level, especially when you get into these people who do the double whammy of this person has this mental illness because they had this childhood. Not interesting to me. This classic example would be narcissism. The assumption that narcissists have a chip on their shoulder because they had a traumatic childhood. Yeah, that's possible. But narcissism is so much fucking fun, if you can get away with it, that you're also going to see people who were totally pampered in their childhood and never had trauma at all. And you're also going to see people who basically fell into it because they saw a way to do it. The dog whisperer, it's almost never the dog that's the problem. It's the owner who needs correction. Okay. All right. So, Jeff, here's a challenge for you. How far would you take that? Does that go beyond dogs? Because I hear from people who say, if you're having trouble with someone, that's really all about you. Yes, which? I want to hear, Jeff. What's your answer? Does it apply to humans too? It's almost never the other person that's the problem. It's the owner. Look at your fellows. Okay. All right. So here's how I think about that. For what it's worth, don't listen to me. I mean, these are just a guy with his ideas. All right. So we start with that. There is a natural human tendency to look outward first, and it's worth compensating for that. That is, if there's a problem, it's someone else. I once did this analysis, and I think so. It was a loose statistical thing. So I got a long list of emotions, and then I plugged them into negative emotions, the ones that are kind of pejorative, like I'm disturbed or uncomfortable or dissatisfied or any of those kind of words. And I plugged them into the sentence, in this relationship, I am feeling X. What I found was, I can't remember the number, but it was something like 75% of them made it sound like the problem was the other person. If in this relationship I feel unseen or something like that, that's clearly an example of that. So our natural tendency, this would just be true of us as human beings, is that the world should get out of our way. Traffic is always a violation of my rights. No one should ever thwart me. And if I stub my toe on something, someone else ought to pay. So if you start with that, and then you notice, okay, that's confirmation bias, and I need to manage it, and I need a counter pressure. Okay, so now you got a statement like, look at yourself first. All right, well, there's a rule, a decree, and it could tip the scales against that tendency to think the problem is the other person. Could be useful that way. How far do you want to take it? So the next question is, can you find exceptions to it? I'm going to ask this of you, Jeff. Find me an exception to the rule that you should look at yourself first. Is pretty messed up one. Pets are slaves. I don't think it makes a good example. Yeah, for lots of reasons, I don't think it makes a perfect example too. Here's another example. A friend of mine has a tendency to say it takes a hive to make honey. I said, "Yeah, that's about bees. Are you going to say that that's true of all productivity? I mean, what is your point? How about this? It's always darkest before the dawn. Sure, that's dawn. It's probably one of the most reliable things in the world. It's also darkest before death. So what's your point? So what you got to do in this work, and this is what Kyle's actually talking about earlier, which is you got to get over the appetite to find the satisfying pat conclusion. I find that I suffer bouts of indigestion when others have pat answers where I have got a question. You got to think to the next question. So I just talked about the virtues of this. I'm getting to something about personal responsibility. Okay, personal responsibility sounds hella good. Um, uh, so that could be a pat thing. Which okay, I'm just trying to get at personal responsibility. Now, I still would like to see this from you, Jeff, if you're interested in playing along with this. Give me a counter example of your statement that you should look at yourself first. Um, Give me any kind of example that suggests actually you shouldn't. Not always. No, you're still making arguments in favor of what you're saying, and I'm asking to make a counter one. Good, thank you, my brother. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, uh, okay, let's see. The world focus on Montana. Okay, so Tommy's on to the next point I wanted to get across, and I'm going to get to it. It's not so. Once again, Tommy is doing the kind of work I found very exciting, and lots of people find it so exciting that it lasts their lives. But I do know what it's like. You, there was a time, let's say in the '90s, when I was looking for a source of greater confidence. And I was reading a lot of spiritual self help books, and I was getting into the habit of promoting the ones that felt right to me. And they were often a diagnosis. The world is going wrong this way, and here's the way out of it. But Tommy's also getting at something that's been on my mind this week, and I want to talk about it, which is people say that Trump is transactional. I don't think he is. I think he's actually the opposite of transactional. He's a parasite, but the way he does that is by sidestepping transaction. So this comes easy to humans and it's the lion's share of our history. If there's something about seeing us as physical beings that is disturbing to us, and also kind of mystifying because this object I've got right here is physical, and it's not like me because it's not trying to do anything. So I assume that there must be something else beside the physical. And it relates. So physical would be you'd just be talking about work, and you could say efficiency and all of that sort of stuff. It's a little like transactional. It's a little heartless. As you take the heart out of it and you just think about costs and benefits. And so we've got someone with us here who's a math professor, math teacher. And she's teaching this kind of transactional approach where you're trying to equalize things and you're keeping track of what's what, and you're putting figures on it. And I did a whole public policy degree where there's a lot of math, a lot of microeconomics, and you're dealing with this sense that people have that transactional is bad because it's cold and selfish. You're asking what's in it for me. You're demanding payment for things. And then there is this move that people make where they can say, no, it's not all transactions, not all cost benefit analysis. It's not all selfish, like what's advantageous or disadvantageous to you. There's another currency. It's a universal currency. It's the inner spirit you would find, or it's God's love, or it's loyalty, or it's information. In the sciences, that's where we go. That's where it shows up. No information, you can quantify it, but it's everywhere, but it's a completely weird currency. Now, I am going to voice Donald Trump's non-transactional style. Hey, you air traffic controllers, what the fuck? Why are you concerned about getting paid for your work? What are you, some selfish? It's all about you. Where's you're so egotistical, so transactional. You should transcend that. You should love is free. You should love me. You should patriotism is free. You should just it's an infinite resource. And you should love me and you should be a patriot. You shouldn't be a selfish guy. Now, I know someone who's part of this conversation who deals with a an ex-partner who does this stuff a lot. It's a real issue when people start guilt tripping you about this other thing that isn't part of the transaction. So this week, I'm actually playing more and more with the idea that no, actually, paradoxically, being transactional is more moral than the moralizing bullshit you can do with these wild card, trump card, phantom, abstract, non physical, spiritual virtues and vices. Like to say, I'm transcending my ego because I've gotten in touch with the inner spirit and the love that pervades the universe. I'm not saying anybody here would do that, but if but that's an extreme version of what I'm talking about. I find so that's why I'm actually coming back around to behavioral economics. Economics is not just all about money. It's about the dynamics of value, how values change, how supply and demand changes, how utility changes. It's basically the dynamics of normativity, good, bad, better, worse, all of that. And that stuff's fascinating to me. Behavioral economics was the field that was founded by my old buddy, the 92-year-old, he died at 92, Dan Ellsberg. He's considered at least a pioneer in that field, where you're actually paying attention to the cost benefit analysis that people do. And you do it not all in terms of money, you do it in terms of attention, confidence. The currency of confidence is fascinating to me. The supply of and demand for confidence and how it floats around. I'm not saying it operates the same as money, but I'm saying that you can model it. And that actually the modeling is how you get more moral is you get dispassionate about it and you don't virtue signal. You don't distract yourself with the virtual signaling or the ideological, as Karma Lund puts it. You actually pay attention to what's going on because, and you start from the assumption that all organisms are by definition selfish. That's what life starts with. It's a struggle for my existence. They're not starting with some grand concept, some true belief up in the sky, pie in the sky. It's not like that. We start out self-ish, and I mean that like blue-ish. And so here's one way that this came to me. That's what you're explaining: accounting, balance sheet, checks and balances, debts and credits. What I'm doing is I'm using those vehicles to try to to model and understand how it actually goes. Here, I'll give you an example from etiquette. If I borrowed a book from you on MMT, Michael, and I'm supposed to give it back a week ago, and I give it back to you actually a year later, and you say thank you to me, what the fuck's going on? I'm actually late, and you thank me anyway. Well, that's politeness. What it is you're juggling the books. You're actually cooking the books in the other person's favor. And you're doing this as a kind of way of, it's not payback, because if it was payback, you'd say you're late and you owe me fines on this book you borrowed. No, it's pay forward. It's basically saying, I'm going to be extra generous and hope that you reciprocate. So if I take advantage of you saying thank you and act like, no, that means that I did you a favor, that's a problem. So in friendship, you don't pay attention. You strategically don't pay attention to the check, the cost. You say, who's counting? I'm not paying, I'll pay the check this time. I don't care. We'll be fine. But if you start dealing with someone who's a bit of a parasite and takes advantage of you, that is, if you keep on giving an inch through etiquette, thanking people for things that they owe you, then and they keep on taking a mile, you notice it. You never really stopped your analysis, your accounting, but it is a kind of weird double entry bookkeeping. Politeness is a weird double entry bookkeeping where I'm cooking the books in I'm treating accounts payable to me as if they're accounts uh, expendable to what is it? Accounts payable, accounts receivable. If I'm treating an accounts receivable by me as an accounts payable to you, that's etiquette. That's what I'm doing. I'm cooking the books in your favor. And yet, okay. So here's an example of how it came to me. So this relates to Terry's work on this fundamental, what we think of as half of Darwinism, and it's amazing that it has not been looked at enough. So Darwinism is about what happens when you get natural selection, that is pressure. You need to have a trait, and then you end up with this trait. That's one simplified way of talking about it, which is that, and they talk about it as if natural selection is actually a positive factor. It is promoting things. That's not what I think natural selection is. Natural selection is the second law of thermodynamics. Shit falls apart. So it's not the survival of the fittest, it's the non-survival of the unfit, given that everything's falling apart. And there has just been this lifelong, centuries old by now, effort to figure out how it explains everything. Well, it doesn't explain everything. For example, it doesn't explain how you end up with an additional trait that could be selected for. What in natural selection's defense, they sometimes actually call hopeful monsters. That is, you'll get this weird mutation that happens to be advantageous, so natural selection, like God, picks it out. So Terry, my research colleague, who may be moving away as soon as May, which would be heartbreaking for me. I'll need you guys all the more when that happens, because I take these daily walks with him quite frequently. But what his point is in the conversation about altruism, about selflessness, about kindness. So people have been wondering for a long time, why would people be selfless? Because that's kind of costly. If the survival of my fitness, why would I sacrifice myself for others? And there are some common theories that are all driven by the sense that could be advantageous primarily to the group or to me directly if I do it. So one version of it is kin selection, which is I will sacrifice my life because my DNA will be passed on by my offspring. I would sacrifice my life for that. The way J.D. Haldane quoted it, he was an important biologist, but he said, no, I wouldn't give my life for a brother, but I would for 3 cousins and a nephew or something like that. He did a calculation thing on it. There's also reciprocal altruism, which is the idea that it's advantageous to me because you'll pay me back, all of that. But there are also these problems with free riders that I was just talking about. We give an inch and they'll take a mile. There's a popular one. Terry met this week with the proponent of this. It's basically a group selection argument, and it's that united we stand. We do better against other people by being united. And I think there's something true it, especially in human society, but it's also the major problem. I mean, I do think that fascism, which is a bunch of people all aligned with each other, a bundle of sticks, same root as fag, that they do tend to dominate the more diverse democracies and all of that. I see it as a major problem. Okay, so, but Terry's approach is different. He's not talking about the goodness of our heart or the outcome that it could be beneficial, because he's got to deal with a bigger problem, which is, why would I actually give up my autonomy to join something else? And his answer is addiction. Addiction is, if I find someone else doing something useful that I don't have to do because they're doing it, then I'll stop doing it and I'll lose the ability to do it, and then I'll be addicted to them. You could call it love, you can call it addiction. To me, those words mean the same thing, except for whether you think it'll turn out well. But what we're talking about is that you then are stuck doing whatever it takes to maintain that other person that you depend on, or that other resource. You've heard me talk about it in terms of vitamin C. I need to maintain access to vitamin C because I lost the ability to generate my own vitamin C. Okay. So I watch people kind of get bummed out about this because they would rather have altruism be this free resource that everybody ought to give. They feel like they're altruistic to animals would be an example of this. if I can just teach everybody they should be altruistic to animals and they choose to do it, that's what would be that's my identity. I'm identifying as someone who promotes altruism. And one way or another, we're saying, no, actually, altruism has its benefits for the individual because it would cost them too much to do without whatever this external source of something is. Okay. So anyway, I'm thinking about transactionalism and I've gone off on a long jag there. And now I'm coming back around to remembering that there are people here other than Jeremy, and some of them would like to speak. And so that's enough, Jeremy. Let's listen in. Okay. Tommy Dupree, who's an interesting person. If behavioral economics maps external influences, can inner awareness map how we shape our own will, like some wisdom text suggests? Well, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, but with some caveats. It's a really interesting question. What does inner awareness mean? Um, and what you mean by shape our own reality, like some winsome text. So, what this is why many people find me annoying is that I am reading every fucking word and trying to understand what's going on there, where its weight is, where its vector is. Is it because one thing that happens in this language, and you get a lot of this in the wisdom text, is there's a kind of a soothing, it's got a lullaby vibe. So can inner awareness map and shape how we shape our own reality? Like, and wisdom is a popular word this way. I find it a fascinating word. I I study sophology, that is the emergence and evolution of and nature of wisdom. That is what is it. But there is a kind of a love of wisdom talk that comes up. So here's how I'd frame it if it's a real question to me. And thank you for asking it, Tommy. I love a question. Um, no, we don't actually get to shape our own reality. We get to shape our interpretation and to only to some limited extent. I cannot simply override or lobotomize out my interpretations. And it would be foolish of me to pretend I could, to just change my interpretation. This is one of the things I find dubious about the Jeff argument that you can just look at yourself first, not the way Jeff is espousing it, but just my suspicions. I carry a suspicion about the idea, what I call robo envy, which is that I could just look at myself and then I would be rational in looking at myself, and then I would understand myself and I'd come to true wisdom. And yes, what I am talking about, though, Tommy, dear Tommy, is yes, um, mapping external influences and mapping internal influences. It's a huge part of it, but it tends to be more disappointing than people romanticize it to be. That is, I don't think we love it. um I don't think we love spelunking around among our own motives, and I have plenty of evidence for that because I just don't I see people sidestep it a lot. I can certainly talk about the everybody talks about the virtues of introspection or inner awareness. And we often tell other people that they should really look at themselves. But notice what happens if you're in conversation with a friend and you point out what might be a blind spot in them. That is not a safe thing to do. Most people will avoid that. You don't you those that means you're starting a fight. So it's saying, I see something in you that you may not be seeing in yourself. It's called autophobia, fear of self-knowledge. Self-knowledge. It's also called isoptrophobia, which is fear of mirrors. Fascinating to me, and I just think all humans have it. What I call agnostic autophobic agnosticism is the delicacy that we show to each other, where you're allowed to think whatever you are allowed to think whatever you want about what you are, and I'm allowed to think whatever I want about what I am, and we don't get to mess those stories. And if we do, we'll end up with fights. So I'm saying, if you want to look, and I should read this next line, even with survival of the fittest and natural selection, life is inherently. You're saying life is inherently perfect. Nah, you just totally lose me on that. Life is inherently imperfect. And I study biology, so I'm actually studying what organisms are rather than just pretending I'm a champion for them all. Um, the problem with humans, Tommy, you don't have to agree with anything I'm saying. I'm just being blunt here, and I love you for raising this stuff. It's no harm done, but I'm just saying, um, no, eh, you're doing another big piece of this work is you gotta set aside your your appetite to come to conclusions and espouse them. If you really want to analyze what the fuck we are, you gotta drop your oh I like this, oh I don't like this. You gotta cultivate the power of neutral thinking enough to see, for example, that you're not neutral and that it's not perfect. So I'm arguing for what it's worth. You can find lots of people who would definitely support you. You might be even in the wrong chat group here. I mean, there the 99% of what you of people out there would support what you're saying. They may not have the same campaign as you, but you can find plenty of that. This is a different thing here. I'm trying to employ the power of neutral thinking, knowing I can't, that I am biased. So I'm out with a buddy the other night, and she's talking about the difficulties of transitioning into retirement, and she's also married to someone who's a big proselytizer. I mean, he's a champion of virtue, um, and it was all I could do to keep on saying, no, 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 just stop talking about whether it's good news or bad news. Just try to understand what it is. So it's a real problem for me is that there's a what I'm calling conclusionism. It's like you want to jump to the conclusion. I actually want to understand what I am, and if there are conclusions, that's great. But if there aren't, it's okay too, because I'm just trying to. So I do plenty of proselytizing, but I don't want my advocacy to be influencing my analysis. I want my analysis to inform my advocacy. I want to understand what we are before I go out there and say what we all should do. And I don't believe in saying what we should all do anyway. That's kind of fundamental to psychoproctology, which is I'm doing a constraint-based approach to morality or ethics. Um, in a free, adaptive society, you don't get to tell people what they should do. Tommy, you don't. We don't get to do that. But we still have to put a leash on the assholes, or else it won't remain a free and adaptive society. So I'm really on. It's fine. Everybody got their thing, you know. Everybody's got their thing that they advocate, and that's a great big marketplace of that. But now watch this. That's manipulative of you, Tommy. I am watching out. Um, let's see. I'm also watching out for that because I don't want to say. Um, I don't want to get on the high horse and diagnose down. So there's that challenge too. Notice all of the this is complicated work to do this right. So my bad. I'll go now. Nice chatting though. Good. That's fine, Tommy. That's okay. I don't know that that's manipulative because I don't know Tommy. He might mean it. It's also a very standard manipulative move. If he had said it, he could have said it a little more on the he could have said it more obviously. He could have said, "Oh, fine, I'll shut up. I'll never speak again because I can see that you're closed-minded." That kind of thing. That'd be more clear to me than that. But anyway, no, that's right. So I was saying to Tommy, that's right. No, okay. So all right. No, Tommy, I think has moved on. And anyway, let's see. I don't know what murder means. Oh, I know what murder means. He's still talking about vegetarianism. I think it's just so some people might be distracted by this. I just think it is central. What we just are witnessing with Tommy is shit that we all can do. And we can do it in response to Tommy too. Tommy can say something like this, and then we say, that's manipulative. Like I'm the authority on what's manipulative. I have a rule that if I'm going to accuse someone of something, I have to caveat it as objective, as subjective. Once again, he might say, "Well, that's your opinion," but I have to show that I know it's my opinion. Okay, so I just love it. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So we're getting close to the end, and I don't feel like I've gotten enough uh, Ideas. Let's go one more time. Deep. Uh, uh, let's see. We got 10 more minutes. How does anybody want to use it? I'm gonna follow up on something here. Um, that's manipulative of you, Tommy. Tommy, are you looking at yourself? Um, I don't find those to be state of the art in terms of how you deal with someone who isn't looking at themselves, um, and is on the borderline of manipulative and denies it. Um, yeah, but and here's another one. I'm glad of this. Tommy sounds culty. Um, this matters to me a lot. You've heard me say it. I don't believe in kindness as a universal solution. I think that kindness means accommodating others, and I don't believe that you should accommodate everybody. But I do believe that we are all the same kind. Um, from my perspective, the irony here, and the irony comes from doubling down. Like Kyle was saying earlier, you apply a rule, you find out that there's a counter rule, and then you come up with a higher level rule, and then you find that there's a counter rule to that. So I think that Tommy was engaged in a kind of speciesism, where there are the good people who don't eat animals, and there are the bad people who eat animals. It's a very standard move. But then there's also that move can go up a level where someone says, so if you'd said, Shirley, if you'd said, Tommy is culty, what's going on there? Well, there are two kinds of people. There are the real people and good. Fun monster. I like that too. All right. Um, okay, now watch oh, this is just so sweet. I mean, I love this. Okay. Um, how do we throw out the bathwater without throwing out the baby? That's a great point. I mean, and I brought it up in the last session here. So if someone's delivery is bad in selling something, that doesn't mean the product is bad necessarily. I could make a very strong case for vegetarianism or veganism. I could do it. I've been one, but even if I didn't, I could make that. Now, someone says, Tommy, let's see, that's manipulative of you, Tommy. And then Tommy says, I'm not trying to manipulate anyone. Okay. Just take those two statements and see the square off I am trying to avoid. I get on my high horse and I sell something like um, veganism or whatever, Star Trek. I don't care. Um, and then um, I get overbearing because I'm actually just jerking off to my own authority about how Star Trek is the answer to everything. And someone says, I'm being manipulative. They just tell me that I'm being manipulative. And as if they are the official psychologist, like the head of the APA. And I say, as if I'm the head of psychology at the APA, I'm not being manipulative. I've checked with myself. I've checked out my inner world, and it's pure virtue. So this is the irony you get with Tommy is that he's saying you need to really explore your inner motives. And then when he does, he always comes out with a positive rating of himself. Um, so yeah, no, this stuff you're just in the wrong place, my buddy. No, follow the golden rule. No, I actually don't believe in the golden rule. I think that it's not a rule. It's basically saying if you accommodate everybody, everybody should accommodate everybody, so no one has to accommodate anybody. It's a claptrap. I do believe in this, though, my brother, which is whatever you do unto me is fair game for me to do back unto you. I don't have to believe it. I don't believe it. I don't find your rhetorical tricks very useful or interesting. Like I say, they cause me more red flags than you think they will. You apparently think that they'll buy you credibility, they lose you credibility. But I can certainly use them on you. Notice how much you are selling the popular platitudes. Let love and compassion shine through all your actions. That is so fucking generic. In fact, um, uh, it's so generic that the MAGA people would say that. Maybe you're MAGA. I haven't met a tribe that doesn't say that, and it doesn't seem to do much. It doesn't make much work. It doesn't actually change things. But people have been saying that shit for uh, 3,000 years. And I don't see much progress through it. I mean, yeah, you can make an argument that there's progress through it. I think it's probably less the power of those religious convictions. I will even make an argument that they are backfiring in the way that they seem to be backfiring for Tommy with me right now. That is, most people don't trust it anymore. It's easy to give lip service to that. You just gave lip service to the importance of doing your inner work to find your wisdom. And yet, when you do your inner work, what you come out with is, I'm wonderful. So I'm not been yeah, so this is all okay. So good. Now Fun Monster raises a really interesting point. This is where we'll end. This is a real challenge for me. I don't know Tommy's background. I don't know what trauma he's been through. I don't know what education he's gotten. It's a little bit perhaps like what Fun Monster experienced at some point in her life when she was bought into something that wasn't like the stuff does for me. It made her feel good. And then she woke up out of it. Now, Fun Monster's great this way because she's also trying to wake up other people out of it. And she's dealing with this same thing about um, where do you use sticks and where do you use carrots? Now, some people will say, you're beaten up on someone, shame on you. You should only use carrots. If I had only talked in a more receptive way, let's say with Tommy, he would have come around. But Fun Monster is also on the other side of this. She knows that people, when they're in that state that she remembers from her experience of it, that I remember from my experience on the commune, you're not receptive. If someone offers you a soft and subtle suggestion, you'll dismiss it because you can easily. So, this question about where to be blunt and where to be accommodating, where to be gentle, where to be receptive, where to give people the benefit of the doubt. Fun Monster, you and I are dealing with that in our work, on our Sunday work, and in our lives. We're dealing with that because, and I'm working from this interesting model, which is brings us full circle. It's back to where we started this thing. In philosophy, you've got to be blunt. You don't get to be mealy mouth. I mean, actually, in the ideal, the way it started was I am going to place my bet on the table about how things really work. And I'm going to put it on the table even if you disagree with it. I have to put it on the table as it is. And I'm not going to soft pedal it. I'm not going to say maybe. I'm not going to, I'm going to assert it. But you know that it's my opinion. And I know that you could have an opposing opinion, and we're not taking it personally. And the reason we're doing is that we're trying to be efficient about it. Because if I say something mealy mouth about what I believe, then you may not hear it. You may not understand it. I may have given you a convenient way to misunderstand it, something like that. So what I'm saying is my tendency is to be blunt and loving and subjective about it. And to actually talk about the possibility that you are unaware of your motives. And that I am unaware of my motives has to be in that picture too. If I cannot distrust myself, I lose ground distrusting you or distrusting what you're saying. So how to be so this delicate dance that came up this morning. I think of it as Gent 3.0, maximizing honesty, subject to the need to be tactful, diplomatic, and all of that. That's where rhetoric and logic work for me. And so and then I could get on my high horse about someone who is so notice Fun Monster, because I know you can take this because you dish it as good as you take it. I love that about you. When there was a moment above when you kind of were saying shame on you for shaming. And I love that because it's the paradox I have to deal with. And I don't get to say, well, you're just a hypocrite because you shamed me for shaming, like nobody should ever shame. No, that means I have to figure out, okay, where to shame and where not to. But there is a kind of a patness to, you guys are bullying this guy. Shame on you. No one should ever bully anyone. Let me bully you into believing it. All I'm doing, let me see if my hat's around here. No, it's not. It's the hat upon the hats upon the hats. It's recursion all the way up and down. And so if you're willing to take your answer and then fold it back into itself, that's what recursion is about. You get this just worm cans of wonder. It just goes on and on. And in the process, you're learning so much about the dances we all do. You get to that inner understanding of your own behavioral economics, your internal, as Tommy rightly said, and you come to understanding your own biases a little better. For example, every time you notice yourself plopping down patly on some solution, like uh, uh, everybody should have whatever. Every time you see yourself land there, um, uh, let's see. I'm trying to remember a lyric, a limerick I wrote on exactly the subject. When I find a solution that fits, I like to kick back and just sit on my laurels, but then a resulting dilemma proves questions in life just don't quit. Okay, here we go. Just focus on your truth. Too pat for me. It doesn't work. Uh, your truth is a complicated issue. We'll talk about that. We'll have fun. Um, uh, I find the disclaimer of no manipulating is a precursor to. Yeah, that's right. No, I assume that I manipulate. I mean, that's part of the job. Is, when people say you can't change anyone else, you can only change yourself. I'll buy that, only coupled with its other truth, which is that you can't help but change people and you want to get as efficient and good about it as possible, and you want to be careful what you try to change people to do. Um, no, but no, bluntness is not the best weapon. It's one of the weapons. And we will. What I love about this, we're done for today. But what I love about this is we get to keep on talking. Um, get in touch with me, any of you, if you want to talk about something. I'm at the JS at jeremysherman.com. Join the study group that for the time being is still a group focused on how to engage with people there's no talking to, which was one of the big topics today. We had a great time with that one. I did, at least I had a wonderful time with it. I want to, so I'm just trying to get you back. There we go, Michael. That is actually a popular thing. I have one good friend who said, this is so unfair. I'm learning more from you than you're learning from me. Now, in this case, this person was saying that it was unfair because she wanted to be more of the teacher. But I know that feeling. And I think in a way, I had to get over that with Terry. He clearly knew more than me. And I clearly wanted it more. So I could offer him insights early on, but I was having too much fun actually parasitic on all that he had learned. And by now, half of our conversation is me feeding him new ideas. But I had to get over the need to reciprocate, not so much out of fairness, but out of the sense. Here's how I think of it. So I meet this guy, and there's a chance that I could build my confidence by besting him with things I know. That is, or teaching him some. That would definitely build my confidence. But I also could possibly get an upgrade in confidence if I mind them. And once again, I'm talking behavioral economics. I don't want to hear any virtue signaling about what I should do. I'm not interested in that. I'm trying to understand what I do. So there's a move. You got to decide, okay, am I going to get more from learning from them or from beating them by tutoring them? And I could say, I'm not trying to tutor you. I'm not trying to get my confidence up. I'm not trying to best your knowledge. I'm just trying to share my truths, or I'm just trying to be generous with my the things I've learned. what I'm interested in here is outside of that. It's really, um, there's this behavioral economics thing, which is actually going to get me more confidence. I'm in the market for more confidence. Will I learn more? And there are people uh, who know I just end up deferring to, and there's other people who I think I get more confidence beating them. Nobody here. That's not where I'm at. And if you decide that I am someone who's just trying to beat everybody, um, I take it to heart. You could be right, and you probably shouldn't spend time with me if you've decided that that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, my darlings, I will see you next time. I'm gonna be back next Saturday. Um, this is great fun for me. I hope it is for you. And feel free to get in touch in between now and then if there's something on your mind. Um, don't try to sell me on anything unrelated. You know where I am. I got my row I'm hoeing. I'm not launching into other, I'm not looking for the next big project. Um, uh, I fuss where I fuss. And that's just a line you should take with you wherever you go. It relates. It's a great way to move. It's simply say, sorry, I fuss elsewhere. Everybody's got their fuss budget. Mine is quite limited. Everybody's is limited. So you allocate your fuss budget to certain things. I fuss elsewhere is a perfectly, not to disparage where you fuss. Um, we all have our fusses. May you have fabulous fusses this week, and thank you so much for being here, you all.